My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. We are continuing now our study of the resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15, and we've been focused on Paul's statement in 1 Corinthians 15, 55, and 56, where he said that the resurrection would be when sin, the sting of death, would be overcome. I have stated this often. Let me reiterate it. If you deal with sin, you have dealt with death. It's just that simple. It is that undeniable. And to drive that home, I've been sharing with you the fact that Romans chapters 5 through 8 are directly parallel with 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Both deal with Adam, sin, and death, and with Christ, righteousness, and resurrection. And as the two chapters develop it, now we might say that Romans 5 through 8 is a little bit more involved, a little bit more detail, a little bit more explanation. But the primary motifs, the fundamental elements of both of these passages are identical. Again, Adam, sin, and death, Christ, righteousness, life, resurrection life. Now, it is commonly argued that Romans 6 is dealing with spiritual death versus Paul dealing with physical death in 1 Corinthians 15. We are told that in Romans chapter 6, Paul's talking about conversion. Well, the point of fact is, there is no such dichotomy in Romans chapter 6. Paul is not discussing two different kinds of death. You see, we have to go back to the garden for this. When God said to Adam and Eve, of every fruit, of every tree that is in the garden, you may freely eat thereof. But in the day you eat thereof, you will surely die. Now, folks, listen to me very, very carefully. You know, I have posted these facts a couple of different times, actually several different times, on Facebook lately in controversies and discussions there. It is important to realize what God did not say. God did not say, in the day you eat, you will begin to die. No. And ask yourself the question, what is the inherent nature of that which is from dust? And you may be saying, well, why would you even ask that question, Don? Well, I ask the question because, according to Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7, Adam was created from dust before he was ever put in the garden. So, what is the nature of that which is created from dust? Well, God said, when He cast Adam and Eve out of the garden, from dust you were taken, from dust you shall return. You know what that means? It means that when Adam was created from dust, he was created mortal, i.e., subject to biological decay. He was created subject to physical death. That means, that means that when God said, in the day you eat thereof, you will surely die, God was not saying, in the day you eat, you will become mortal. He was already mortal. And God did not say, in the day you eat, you'll be as good as dead. Oh, but you won't die for 900 years. Listen to me. It is absolutely incredible to me at the desperation attempts that are made to avoid the language of Genesis 2, 15 to 17. In the day you eat, you will surely die. I want to recommend that you go to my website, donkpreston.com, and in the article section, do a search for Dallas Burdett. Read his article on the death of the garden. Now, Dr. Burdett teaches Hebrew. He is a professor. He has analyzed the language of Genesis 2:15 to 17, going in depth, citing some of the world's best scholarship, some of the world's best Hebrew scholars, pointing out that the death that God threatened Adam and Eve with that day, when He said, "In the day that you eat, you will surely die," whatever death it was, okay? Whatever death it was, according to the language, the linguistics, the grammar, the construction, they had to die that very day. Not 100 years, not 900 years, but that day. And you know, I've been asking people to read that article, to study that article, and to respond to that article. I have not had one single person to offer a single word of refutation from linguistics and grammar of that text. Not one, folks. Now listen to me. If it is the case that the death that God threatened Adam and Eve with, when He said, "In the day you eat, you will surely die," if it is the case that they did not die physically that day, then it must be the case that the death that God was threatening them with was not biological death. They did not die biologically that day. Therefore, the death that God threatened them with that day was not biological death. Now, we are told, oh, but wait, God made some animal skins for them. God prepared a sacrifice. And so, by offering the animal sacrifice, Adam and Eve didn't die that day. It was an expression of God's grace. Well, I'll have more to say about that later. Okay? But I want you to think about what we have just seen in direct connection with Romans chapter 6, verse 23. The wages of sin is death. Does death, physical death, come as the direct result of sin? Wow, you've just got to catch the power of that simple question. And we will talk about it on the flip side.